Lord Northbourne was a small boy. He remembers the discovery of an Anglo-Saxon grave that aroused the interest of some local archaeologists.
If you look at this mess out here, which was a chalk quarry, somebody noticed that there was what was obviously a grave in it. And Mr. Stebbing, who was mayor of Sandwich, and a friend of his who was also an archaeologist, came out here, had a look at it. And then they decided that must be something interesting behind this, and they excavated about the first 10 or 15 graves, I think, up here.
So these lovely finds that were coming out of your land ended up in your possession?
Well, that was the law in those days, you know. And actually what happened was about half of them went to local museums, and about the other half my father retained.
The family still have the treasures, and Lord Northbourne took me to his son's house to see them.
This is my son, Charles.
Hi, lovely to meet you,
Nice to meet
Charles.
you. Hello.
I understand you're going to show me the treasures.
I have the treasures here.
Wonderful. Oh, my goodness.
So I'm going to show you the buckle here. This is the famous Fingalsham buckle, which I'll put down for you here.
Oh, my gosh. My goodness. Can I pick it up and have a look?
Absolutely.
Wow. It's a solid piece of metal, isn't it? So it's gilded with a silver backplate. I mean, everything about it, it's so golden and bright. It would have looked so amazing on a military attire. If we have a look at the figure, well, we know it's Odin, of course, because of this teardrop-shaped head and these hook-beaked birds coming out from the prow of the helmet. And then he's wearing his own version of the buckle around his middle. I'm getting very excited. Sorry, I'm getting a bit hot and excited at this. It's interesting, of course, that he's naked, because this was one of the things that set apart the early so-called barbarian warriors, that they would run into battle naked, wielding their weapons. I get an overwhelming sense of excitement holding such an amazing piece of art like this. It is a national treasure. It's something hugely important to our art history. All these finds from Fingalsham really give us a vivid picture of 5th century Anglo-Saxon England. These are Germanic pieces, pagan pieces. They're full of imagery that's coming out of the pagan belief system. Birds, Odin with his spears. So what do we know about Odin and the pagan beliefs of the Anglo-Saxons? Well, Odin was the chief god in Norse mythology, ruler of Asgard, the location of Valhalla, which was the great hall where dead warriors believed they would go to in the afterlife to feast and drink for all eternity. Snakes, boars, bears, wolves, and ravens. All these animals appear in Anglo-Saxon art, and each is tied to a specific Norse legend. Warriors believed they could transform into these animals. And it was these pagan beliefs that fostered the idea that the Anglo-Saxons were primitive. For a long time, historians thought that very early Anglo-Saxon kings were barbarians, not nearly as sophisticated as the Christian Romano-Britons they had conquered. And the archaeological evidence seemed to support this, suggesting that they lived in simple wooden structures like this hovel. However, the truth was very different, and it was not until Britain was again faced with another Germanic invasion that an archaeological discovery was made that would transform our understanding of the Anglo-Saxon world forever. In 1939, as Britain prepared for war, a team of archaeologists
were preparing to excavate an Anglo-Saxon burial site at Sutton Hoo in East Anglia. What they found astonished them. It was a longboat, 18 metres from stem to stern, and inside it was full of precious artefacts, the like of which no one had seen before. There was so much treasure, a man with this wealth could not have lived in a hovel. The archaeologist concluded that this had to be the grave of a king.
Altogether, this is easily the most magnificent collection of Saxon jewellery ever found. Probably the finest piece artistically is the great gold buckle, over 14 ounces of solid gold. Sliding latches on the back plate allow it to open and show how it was attached to the leather belt.
Today, the Sutton Hoo Treasures have pride of place in the British Museum's Anglo-Saxon collection. The finds from Sutton Hoo would literally rewrite the history books. If you look at some of the details, it's clear these objects are coming straight out of Scandinavia. Here is the raven of Odin, the beast of battle, its beak curling round. And these amazing long claws curving in on themselves. This is Odin's bird, ready to crawl over the bodies of the deceased on the battlefield. And the helmet, very Scandinavian. It must have made quite an impression on the battlefield. Here, coming up the front, we have two dragons, big snarling teeth meeting in the middle and protecting the crown. And then over the eyebrows, two boars, their eyes picked out in glistening garnets. Boars were very potent symbols to Anglo-Saxon warriors. Let me explain why. In the pagan beliefs of the early Anglo-Saxons, the boar symbolised fertility. The goddess Freya rode one called Hildisvanir into battle. That is, when she wasn't riding her cat-drawn chariot. This was one of the few times in history when saying someone is a boar in bed was actually a compliment. But birds and boars weren't the only animal symbols depicted on the Sutton Hoo treasures. There are also snakes, lots of snakes. You can see them writhing over the surface here of the great golden belt buckle. Here, too, intertwine around one another in this beautiful interlaced pattern. But why the fascination with snakes? The snakes are, in fact, Jormungandr, or the world serpent from Norse mythology. Legend has it that he was the son of another god that Odin tossed into the sea, where he grew into a serpent. A serpent large enough to surround the entire world and grab his own tail. It was literally the worm that turned the world. And the Anglo-Saxons believed that if the snake or worm ever let go of its tail, then the world would end. And this is my absolute favourite piece, the Sutton Hoo shoulder clasps. And you can see that serpents writhe all over it. They interlace down the sides here, along the bottom, and winding up here in this intricate pattern. And then there are the boars. There's 2 of them at each end of the shoulder clasp. They're quite difficult to make out. If I isolate just one, you can see the snout with the tusk here, and you follow the shape of the head up to the ear and round below the face, and the spine coming all the way down here, and then the little trotter at the back. These pieces show us just how sophisticated and international the Anglo-Saxons were. Glass from Italy, garnet from India, and these delicate checkerboard patterns. Some of them are only 1 millimetre wide. It's amazing craftsmanship, and something only a few elite jewellers could reproduce today. Garrods are one of the most famous jewellers in the world. The craftsman here creates some of the most exclusive jewellery money can buy. With pieces ranging upwards of £250,000, their jewellery adorns billionaires, pop stars and royalty.
The way we're looking at it there, and then we see the side.
Designer Stephen Webster, the man in charge, believes the techniques the Anglo-Saxon smiths used to make the shoulder clasps are the same ones still in use today.
This is where the kind of the jewellery manufacturing process has really not moved on the way that you might have thought over 1,600 years or 1,500 years or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's a lot of small hand tools, and even though they would have been cruder, these are very, very similar.
Yeah.
So we've got a ring here that's for a customer in Las Vegas. So the best way to go about that is to carve this in wax.
Right.
So this is the first technique that's the same, you know, so he's carving in wax. And do you want to just show us some of the tools that you use for the carving?
Yeah, I'm just using scalpers and a scraper.
So these are just sharp steel tools.
Again, they don't look like particularly modern
They're
pieces,
not
do they? They're quite-
There's nothing modern on his bench, not even his lunch.
To make the hundreds of garnet inserts, the Anglo-Saxons would have glued them to sticks like this and cut them to size on a grinding stone. I couldn't resist the opportunity to have a go myself. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm really nervous.
See, the thing to do is to hold it firm, but go in and feel it so you feel it bite. All right, that's it. And then you just keep it like that.
Oh, wow, OK. Wow. Oh, it's go. I can see it's wearing down. We have liftoff. Oh. Wow.
Well, anyway, you get the gist of it. The rest is just time.
Well, I've certainly worn a little bit down, but that must take ages to cut that whole shape
Well,
out.
it kind of gives you an idea, doesn't it? We've got a modern tool.
Yeah.
We've got electricity. So they're just going to sit there and work it with whatever they had.
But it really puts it into perspective. And, you know, a minute of doing that and it's barely scratched the gem. And yet they'd have had to have done that over and over down to... Have I done it well?
You did it well, yeah.
Fantastic. So I guess the million-dollar question is, to make that pair of Sutton Hoo shoulder clasps, how much are we talking?
We think it would be just shy of £200,000.
Right. And it would take, how long do you think?
Well, we figured on something close to 4 weeks each.
Wow.
You know, there's not that many shortcuts. We've just got better tools and, you know, better things available, but it's still a lot of handwork.
Yeah. So 200 grand in 2 months, and you could just about end up with a pair of shoulder clasps.
Absolutely.
Thank you. To the Anglo-Saxons, the smiths who created their jewellery must have seemed like magicians. In fact, they even made one smith a god. And his story is an epic tale of enchanting jewels, rape and murder.